Just as long as he doesn't... Oh, yeah. So, a look of great excitement suddenly dawned on Hermione's face. "I've just realised I haven't asked Hagrid to join Spew yet," she said brightly. "Wait for me, will you? While I nip upstairs and get the badges. What's she like?" said Ron, exasperated, as Hermione ran away up the marble staircase. "Hey, Ron," said Harry suddenly. "It's your friend." The students from Beauxbaxton were coming through the front doors from the grounds. Among them, the Violet girl. Those gathered around the Goblet of Fire stood back to let them pass, watching eagerly. Madame Maxime entered the hall behind her students and organized them into a line. One by one, the Beauxbaxton students stepped across the age line and dropped their slips of parchment into the blue-white flames. As each name entered the fire, it turned briefly red and emitted sparks. "What do you reckon 'll happen to the ones that aren't chosen?" Ron muttered to Harry, as the Violet girl dropped her parchment into the goblet of fire. "Reckon they'll go back to school, or are they going to hang around to watch the tournament?" "Dunno," said Harry. "Hang around, I suppose. Madame Maxime's staying to judge, isn't she?" When all the Beauxbaxton students had submitted their names, Madame Maxime led them back out of the hall and into the grounds again. Where are they sleeping, then?" said Ron, moving towards the front door and staring after them. A loud rattling noise behind them announced Hermione's reappearance with the box of Spew badges. "Oh, good, hurry up," said Ron, and he jumped down the stone steps, keeping his eyes on the back of the Violet girl, who was now halfway across the lawn with Madame Maxime. As they neared Hagrid's cabin on the edge of the Forbidden Forest, the mystery of the Beauxbaxton sleeping quarters was solved. The gigantic powder-blue carriage in which they had arrived had been parked 200 yards from Hagrid's front door, and the students were climbing back inside it. The elephantine flying horses that had pulled the carriage were now grazing in a makeshift paddock alongside it. Harry knocked on Hagrid's door, and Fang's booming barks answered instantly. "'Bout time," said Hagrid, when he flung open the door and seen who was knocking. "Thought you lot had forgotten where I live." "We've been really busy, Hermione started to say, but then she stopped dead, looking up at Hagrid, apparently lost for words. Hagrid was wearing his best and very horrible hairy brown suit, plus a checked yellow and orange tie. This wasn't the worst of it, though. He had evidently tried to tame his hair, using large quantities of what appeared to be axle grease. It was now slicked down into 2 bunches. Perhaps he had tried a ponytail like Bill's, but found that he had too much hair. The look didn't really suit Hagrid at all. For a moment, Hermione goggled at him. Then, obviously decided not to comment, she said, where are the Scroots?" "Out by the pumpkin patch," said Hagrid happily. "They're getting massive. Must be nearly 3 foot long now. Only trouble is, they're starting to kill each other." "Oh, no, really?" said Hermione, shooting a repressive look at Ron, who, staring at Hagrid's odd hairstyle, had just opened his mouth to say something about it. "Yeah," said Hagrid sadly. "It's okay, though. I've got 'em in separate boxes now. Still got about 20. "Well, that's lucky," said Ron. Hagrid missed the sarcasm. Hagrid's cabin comprised a single room, in one corner of which was a gigantic bed covered in a patchwork quilt. A similarly enormous wooden table and chairs stood in front of the fire, beneath a quantity of cured hams and dead birds hanging from the ceiling. They sat down at the table while Hagrid started to make tea, and were soon immersed in yet more discussion of the Triwizarding Tournament. Hagrid seemed quite as excited about it as they were. "You wait," he said, grinning. "You just wait. You're going to see some stuff that you've never seen before. First task. But I'm not supposed to say." "Go on, Hagrid," Harry, Ron, and Hermione urged him, but he just shook his head, grinning. "I don't want to spoil it for you," said Hagrid. But it's going to be spectacular. I'll tell you that. Them champions are going to have their work cut out. Never thought I'd live to see the Triwizarding Tournament played again. They ended up having lunch with Hagrid, though they didn't eat much. Hagrid had made what he said was a beef casserole, but after Hermione unearthed a large talon in hers, Ron and Harry rather lost their appetites. They enjoyed themselves trying to make Hagrid tell them what the tasks in the Triwizarding the tournament were going to be, however, speculating which of the entrants were likely to be selected as champions, and wondering whether Fred and George were beardless yet. A light rain had started to fall by mid-afternoon. It was very cozy sitting by the fire, listening to the gentle patter of the drops on the window, watching Hagrid darning his socks and arguing with Hermione about house elves, for he flatly refused to join Spew when she showed him her badges. "It'd be doing them an unkindness, Hermione," he said gravely, threading a massive bone needle with thick yellow yarn. "It's in their nature to look after humans. That's what they like, see? You'd be making them unhappy to take away their work and insulting them if you tried to pay them." "But Harry set Dobby free, and he was over the moon about it," said Hermione. "And we heard he's asking for wages now." "Yep, well, you get weirdos in every breed. I'm not saying there isn't the odd elf who'd take freedom, but you'll never persuade most of 'em to do it. No, nothing doing, Hermione." Hermione looked very cross indeed, and stuffed her box of badges back into her cloak pocket. By 5:30, it was growing dark, and Ron, Harry, and Hermione decided it was time to get back up to the castle for the Halloween feast, and more importantly, the announcement of the school champions. "I'll come with you," said Hagrid, putting away his darning. "Just give me a sec." Hagrid got up, went across the chest of drawers beside his bed, and began searching for something inside it. They didn't pay much attention until a truly horrible smell reached their nostrils. Coughing, Ron said, "Hagrid, what's that?" Said Hagrid, turning around with a large bottle in his hands. "Don't you like it?" "Is that aftershave?" said Hermione, in a slightly choked voice. Eau de Cologne," Hagrid muttered. He was blushing. "Maybe it's a bit much," he said gruffly. "I'll take it off. Hang on."